Hello, I'm Julia Cordova. Thank you so much for subscribing to my YouTube channel and liking my videos. I really appreciate it. So today we're going to talk about whether or not we're in a bubble. And if I had a marketing team consisting of any more than me and someone who's a little smarter than I am, I would have thought to get some Bubblicious while I was at the 7-Eleven this morning getting my Mountain Dew Zero. It's freaking delicious, y'all. It's so much better than Diet Mountain Dew. It's good. Anyway, we're going to talk about whether or not we're in a bubble, and then we're going to go through charts. So it's very exciting. Okay. All right. Okay. So first of all, Barron's cover this week is not ready to pop, which implies that they believe that even though they are saying that we're in a bubble, that we're not actually anywhere close to a pop, which is, by the way, a ridiculous thing to assert, because in fact, if you are in a bubble, first of all, people don't think you're in a bubble, but secondly, you never know when it's going to pop. There's like zero warning, right? Like, it's not like a bubble is like, hey, about to pop over here, which was really my thesis in the first place that I talked about last week about scaling in short. There's just, in my opinion, not a technical way, at least, technical way to tell when everything is going to give or when it would pop. Anywho, so this brings me actually to a poll I did a little bit over a week ago on September 1st, so actually 2 weeks ago. And the reason that I did a poll on Tesla and not whether or not we're in a bubble is because I didn't want, a lot of times if you ask a direct question, like, I don't know what I'm talking about marketing wise. I'm just saying my own theory was that if I asked a direct question and I said, hey, are we in a bubble? I thought a lot of people would say yes. But I thought asking about the pricing of Tesla would give me a better idea of whether or not people really thought we were, but even more importantly, whether or not if we are, people thought we were close to popping, right? That was my logic. So basically, the majority did believe, well, not the majority, but 31%, I guess the most people out of everybody did believe that Tesla would end, or not even end, but at the beginning of December, which would be after the election, that we would be below 300. So why is this important? Why did I ask this? So to me, that means that 70% of people believe that we are in fact nowhere near the top of this thing. So that's important, right? Because, below 300 in Tesla, only 30% thought that. And if I show you a chart of Tesla started the year way down here at an adjusted for a split about $85 or so. So that is already over, some of y'all are math geniuses, but that is already over 200%. I mean, it's gotten up to, 500. So, I mean, that's a lot, right? Even if it ended below 300, like, that's really not saying it's going to crash. That would be an incredible return on the year, even if it closed at freaking 200. That's double return on the year, right? Is that right? Yeah, that's right. So, or 100, it's 100%. Anyway, it doesn't. My point is that 300 and below is just like, it still will be an incredible return, but that means that people still believe, I think 70% of people still believe that we are going parabolic. So that's interesting, right? It's just an interesting point of fact. I don't know, just thought I'd bring it up. And actually my Tesla chart got all screwed up because of the split, but the RSI didn't, guys. The RSI didn't. And I adjusted these lines, and the slope of the line still worked, which is interesting. And just, it looks like it's consolidating here. I know it's a huge swing, and I know people probably who bought up here are very worried, and maybe they should be. I don't know. But it's still, I mean, this is a little bit flaggy, so look out below if it gets below 330 or so. It's at 372 right now. But unless it gets below 330, it's still just consolidation. Okay. And even if it is. But if it does get below 330, yeah. Okay, let's talk about the S&P. Okay, this is the weekly chart of ES, which is SPX or S&P futures. And you can see we never really reached the top of my trend line here, which was sort of my whole, even though I shorted the Nasdaq, it was sort of my whole part of my thesis going in, is that you know, it wouldn't be like resistance short, and I just thought I would get paralyzed because it's so up. But anyway, this is not at all bullish, or sorry, bearish yet, and we did end the week, even though we're nowhere. You know what? As many lines as I like to have, y'all, I really don't have many weekly pivots, or at least, yeah, weekly pivots from my lines that are anything other than the previous all-time high, which is, right here, 33.97 or so. The purple value, which is 36.29, and then below that, my price ambulance line isn't all the way until 30.80, at least on the weekly. So if I look at the weekly RSI, we did end like right below, but you know what? My line could have been thicker. It'd still be on it, but we ended right. Let's say it's on below, on low. It's on low the ambulance RSI support. So a lot of room to go either way this week, actually. This will be a very interesting week. But anyway, these are the pivots I'm watching. I mentioned the one on the high side, weekly, 36.29 and 30.80 on the weekly. And then I'm just going to be watching RSI as well. But no real clues from the weekly at this juncture. But at the end of the week, next week, that's when it's going to get fascinating, right? Because it'll unless it's flat right on this slope, we'll have some idea of where we're going after next week. In my opinion, I hope. Okay, let's look at daily. Ooh, so, Eric had tweeted right about here, and, NQ, Nasdaq, all-time high, America's roaring back to life, and from his all-in range, I had calculated a measured move of rightness, which are these dashed lines. This is from the hour that he tweeted this, and we got right above that and then came down. Now, some people might look at this and see a flag, but I don't, because it's curved. It looks just sort of like what I call a wah-wah formation. So unless it gets back above, and this is on the daily, and I don't have a line here, but I'm just looking at the intersection of these two MAs. So, certainly if it gets back above 34.28, it'll start to look much more bullish to me. I'll have to start looking at lower time frames. But if the momentum downward continues, and specifically if we get above, I can't believe I'm actually considering this a pivot, because it's really just where he tweeted. But anyway, if we get below 32.99.25, I'm looking for it to go to the finish line, which is 32.32. At least, well, see, I guess it's different every day, right? But I'll update you on Twitter, because I guess tonight, tomorrow, that value is, let's see, is this right? Yeah, that value is 3229. So pretty much 32.30 tonight and tomorrow, which is Monday. And then I'll start looking, I've talked about it a lot, but there is an open hourly gap at 31.84. And if we were to get there, I'd actually expect it to go just a titch lower than that if we get all the way there. I don't know that it would get there and then just reverse. So I'm missing one of my lines here. Look at this. It's gone. But you know what? I'm not going to complain about it, because the rest of the chart is here. I'll have to figure that out later. But I want my musical note line back, because that's like the Fat Lady of Sung line. I'll fix it later. Sorry. I don't know what happened here. Investing.com is having some problems. I'm glad I'm getting off of them. All right, let's look at Nasdaq. This was such a relief for me. I don't even know what to tell you. This was like the worst. Every time I scaled in and then, covered my behind with, I was just like, oh, this is terrible. What did I do? This is the worst thing ever. But anyway, I had tweeted out on Thursday that if we got below the rocket line, that would be a good place to short. And lo and behold, we sort of ended way below. We back tested. Pretty much we back tested the rocket line on Friday before coming back down. And so the pivots I'm watching for Monday are on the low side 11,060, because below that I think we're going to come down to this previous, you know, it's funny how these slopes work, but if you look here, it's like the top of the flag but sloped down. And then my doctor's stethoscope pivot would be 10,577, and then the ambulance is below that. Now, if I take my RSI support lines that I've been drawing here and I put it here, we are not quite, but we didn't quite close on support, but we're getting close to it. And in fact, we did bounce off of it intraday on Friday. But anywho, let's see if we get there on early this week, and then what happens from there. But I would certainly like, of course I would like it because I'm still short, but I would certainly like to see both price and RSI support at the same time, because that will give me a very high confidence level to flip long. Believe it or not, I would absolutely consider doing that if I see something that makes it dip worthy or panic worthy. So far, you've probably seen a lot of people talk about the fact that any sell-off that we've had has just been very orderly. It's been like, okay, everybody, you know, the building's on fire, but everybody get in a single file line and it'll be great. And that's just what people have done. And I don't, even though, you know, last week I talked about seeing no pain, and this is clearly some pain. Yeah, not really. Not too much. Not really. I just didn't see any panic. And that doesn't mean that it can't go right back up without panic, because I never saw really any true panic on March 23rd, which is when everything turned around from the COVID dip. I guess it was a dip. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, I wouldn't call it I guess it was a dip. Anyway, I didn't see any real panic there either, but I did see technical signs that would point to a reversal, and I have not seen that yet here. So if I do see that here, I will certainly let you know via Twitter. But right now, you know, maybe I don't know. It's possible it goes up. I mean, we're certainly on a trend line here. We're above support, price support as of right now. We're above RSI support as of right now. I'd like to see something that's a little more before I'm ready to say. And I don't know whether or not it will go back to all-time highs or whether or not it will just be a rally. But as of right now, I'm still short. Well, at least I'm keeping it 100 with you guys. Okay, now I thought I would talk about DXY because a lot of people are interested in it. A lot of people, it's not me. But anyway, you know what's great about DXY is it's freaking beautiful to chart. It's really, I don't want to say it's easy to chart, but the lines, y'all, the lines. So I had talked about a couple weeks ago that I thought it was ready for a bounce, and it did bounce so far so good, if you were looking for a bounce. But let me just take the RSI lines here and see whether or not we can come up with something. Oh, look at that. See how beautiful this is to chart? I'm not going to say it's easy, but I mean, okay. All right. So if it does get above this RSI resistance here, which looks like it would, I mean, I don't know. And it looks like, I don't know. But if it gets above this RSI resistance here, then I think it'll probably go all the way to the pink line. I think it'll go all the way to the pink line anyway. I just don't know whether it'll happen in a straight line. It might, or it might just whoop. But it does look to me like it's got some momentum. It's got some MAs crossing. Here, I'll make it bigger for you. You know, whenever those MAs start to cross and they start to point upwards, so far it's just the 9 that's starting to really go up. We got probably a flat on the 20 and the 50 is still going down, but we have a cross. So we have potentially a change in momentum. And let's see here. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these lines and I'm going to move it here so that I will see where we really, if we break above this previous, you know, high RSI sloped line, then yeah, that's going to be super duper bullish for the dollar. I don't know whether that'll happen or not, but we'll see. Maybe this line will correspond with the pink line. I don't know. But anyway, that's what I think about the dollar right now. I think that, and I also mentioned, but I didn't draw it out. So far, let me make it now. Okay. So far it looks like what happened is, you know, consolidation right here, and then the consolidation took a pretty, I mean, see that is really pretty, right? Because it didn't even like fake us out. It just, the consolidation was like, all done consolidating now, and then it made a bear flag, and then it stayed within the bear flag channel though, but the second that it left this bear flag channel, I should draw this out maybe. Oh boy, I haven't planned for this. Let's do this. All right. I didn't do that right, but y'all get it. Here, I can fix it. I can make it look a little more pretty, but I would also see whether or not those slopes are the same. I don't know if they are or not. Anyway, the second that it left this bear flag channel, I mean, it was really done, right? Anyway, here is the opposite of a bear flag in that instead of having a point up, you have a point down. You can see there's a sort of channel-y thing going on down there. I call it a reversal flag. TM, trademarked, y'all, trademarked. And it can actually go either way, but it's really a channel on a stick. And the longer the stick is, I find, before the channel happens or the reversal flag, the more of a bounce we'll get from the reversal flag if we go up, or the more of a rut-row we get if we go down from that channel. So, we'll have to see what happens if or when it gets to this pink line, and if not, maybe it'll continue its downward fall. We'll have to see, but a lot of it will just depend on this price action here if it gets there. Okay, now let's talk about gold. Speaking of the dollar, although I don't know. Somebody really smart and with a lot of nerdy time on their hand would have to prove to me that there was any sort of correlation, and then they would have to say to me, except for if not this, and then I would just be really bored by that. But anyway, so with gold, it's still consolidating. We ended this week higher than we closed last week, which is a good sign. We also closed above the 9, I think it's the 9, looks like the 9. Yeah, the 9 MA, that's also a bullish sign. What isn't quite as bullish is that, you know, if you heard me talk about this in coffee when I'm talking about channels, and I'm like, if it doesn't touch the bottom of the channel, it's more bullish. It back tested the 9 almost perfectly here. I mean, it was a technical, beautiful, for anyone scalping, a beautiful place to scalp long. I know my friend Sarah caught it right there because she's a genius. Anyway, in the next week, it sort of did the same thing. It got slightly below the 9, and then now it kind of got below the 9, but closed above it. It's still consolidating above, and these are my pivots for this week, above 1971. It will be a breakout. So that'd be good to see. But, you know, it seems like it's getting a little, it's still consolidating, but I guess it gives me pause as to whether or not it will in fact come down. And if it did come down, by the way, that still would not be at all bearish. In fact, as we have talked about, if it backtested the 20, I'd go ape bananas like trying to buy that thing. Like I'd be looking all over the place trying to find a bottom of that. Like I would be all over it. I'd be all over it because it would have chased out a lot of the late people, a lot of the, I'm not going to call them Robin Hooders because I feel like that's not fair and it's not even accurate, but I don't know. But it will have chased out a lot of the, oh my gosh, we should buy gold because everybody says we should, people. So if it breaks out, I'll buy, I'll look at it. I don't know if I'll buy it because I like silver better, but I'll pay more attention to it. How's that? And then if it gets below this 1941 level, is that right? Or no, 1926.1, sorry. If it gets below this 1926.1 level, it's like, I guess the price is at 1941 right now. But anyway, if it gets below the 1926 level, then I'll start to watch for a potential breakdown. And by breakdown, I mean buy the freaking dip opportunity as of right now. That could change, but as of right now. Okay, let's look at silver. Same thing. I mean, really, it's, you know, a lot of you know I had sold right underneath this 30 level, and in order to mess around with the NQ and to have some ammunition there on what I thought was a very high likelihood trade. But it's still really just consolidating. It won't have been a breakout this week until above 28.79, and it wouldn't be a breakdown unless below 21.59, which would, I think, I don't know for sure, but it looks like that would correspond right now with the MA20 on the weekly. And it's forming a bull flag on RSI, still in this beautiful turbo zone if it can freaking get moving. But for now, it did close the week, even though it's red here because it closed below where the week started. It closed above where the week before ended. So it's still making forward progress. It's not even close to the 9. And that's what everybody was like, if the dollar goes up, that's not good for silver. First of all, I don't know whether or not they're really correlated, because I think when you get in extreme times like the one we have, I don't know whether you could call it a correlation, but it's nowhere near even touching the 9. It didn't even backtest the 9 yet. Like, it's still super-y, ooper-y bullish from a price action perspective. I just want to dip because I'm greedy. So I would love that. I'd probably start scaling in a little bit below that if it came even close. But you know what I would do too? Is I would take this slope and I would go along the bottom. You know, see how it's not even touching anything? You'd be like, where'd you get that line from? I would still take it, and I would go here and I'd be like, you know what, if it stayed with this zone, it's still looking like a big I almost said a dirty word. No, it's still looking like a huge bull flag, even if it bounces off this blue line. So I would start to look there. I'll keep this on here for now. I'll make it like dotted, because technically it doesn't look beautiful. If y'all saw that on Twitter, you'd be like, what is Cordoba doing over there? She's acting weird. But anyway, that's what I would do, is I'd start to look around here. This is the weekly chart. So I'd start to look around here, and then I'd start to like really look everywhere I could find to find an excuse to buy it here. I really would. And then I probably wouldn't even care if it went down even below that, because I'd be like, well, it's going to come back up because look at this. Look at this. But you never know. We'll see. I'm very bullish longer term, and I have a good friend who's also bullish that I trust very much. So we'll see about that. All right, let's look at oil. I forgot to look at oil last week, and that's a shame because I was going to say how bearish it looked. Anyway, right now, well, what do you know? It closed right at the 20 in the weekly. What do you know? It's like, you know, people pay a lot of money for services, and I still think it's like, what's happening here? The 20 is still pointed. Is that the 20? Let me just make sure. Yes. Oh, goodness, guys. Goodness. Oops. The 20 is still pointed upwards for now. We got the 9 starting to curl down. We got the 50 curling down, right? I always like to double check those just because I can't ever. Yeah. So right now, the 20, which is my go-to, is still up. So, you know, I don't know. I had talked about the fact that potentially whatever move that was going to be made hadn't started yet. So this next week will be critical, because this next week, whether or not it bounces here, and if it comes back above this 42 level, I'm going to say that's going to be super freaking bullish. And if it does not, and if it in fact craters here, I'm going to be looking probably for an opportunity to buy it here. But we'll have to see what happens. We'll have to see. I'm going to have to start drawing lines, y'all, because this is looking like it actually might start to do something that could make me a lot of money. This stuff, for me, I don't have the... If you're dedicated to crude and you're looking at it, then it had all the time, fine. But I just didn't have the... I don't like to click all the time. It's a lot of commission. I don't like that. Anyway, let's look at Natty. Okay, so I bought the dip on Friday, and I bought it a little bit on Thursday because I was getting the FOMO, y'all. I was getting the FOMO. But anyway, I extended this flag line. I'll make it bigger. Extended the slope of the flag line, and although we didn't touch it at the low on Friday, we did close above this pivot that I've been watching to buy, which was also the bottom of the flag here. So, you know, if Natty had behaved itself from a technical perspective, it would have hit the bottom right here like I wanted it to. But it's still really in this channel. Now, that's not... I know people were talking about the fact that it was bearish. For me, it's still really not... I mean, you know, if it gets below... Of course, it's now in a downward channel, but it's in a downward channel on a stick, which a lot of people would call a flag. I'm just saying. So the safest thing to do is not to trade Natty. The second safest thing to do would be to buy a very small amount at the bottom of the flag to see whether or not if it's the flag, and then to add on a breakout above this flag channel. That would be the safest thing to do. So I'm going to go ahead and, let me see. I drew this in like this. Okay, so the second safest thing to do, like I said, would be to add on a breakout above. I'm going to say, just even though I've got this in here now, so I can talk about it on Twitter, I would wait until it gets back above this key, because the key is important. The key is a very important level, and the key is 2.489. So 2.49 essentially, but 2.489. And if it gets above that, I think it's going to go moonbeams. I think it's going to go moonbeams anyway, but we shall see. I could be wrong. It's Natty. You never know. Let's talk about coffee. Okay, so, you know, I made some pretty good calls on Twitter, but I freaking top-ticked. I did. I top-ticked Joe when I was like, they're buying all the dips. I top-ticked it for the week. So it ended the week, last week, lower than the previous week. That still does not concern me, because it still looks to me like beautifully bullish. And in fact, at its low, it was last week it was touching this support here. So it's just, and I said it in my video last week that it could do a lot of things and still be very bullish. I still believe that. And I haven't actually yet bought my third scale, but I intend to with any sort of dip from here on out. I probably should have done it last week, but I didn't, because I just didn't. So I've got one more scale to play with here, and look at these MAs are starting to curl up. It's got some room to dip to chase out some of the people who weren't paying attention to me back down here when I was like, guys, looks bullish. Anyway, so we'll see whether or not, if we get another touch of this RSI line without touching this channel, that would be uber bullish, in my opinion. So we'll have to see. I will keep you updated, but even if we dip next week, unless we close below this channel line, that would be the only cause for concern that I would have, is if, not even dip below, but if it close below this channel line, I'll be like, better just to, I wouldn't probably scale all the way out because I believe in coffee longer term, but I would reduce. How about that? I would reduce substantially if we close below here. But for now, looks good. All right, that's it. I'll make myself big. Thank you so much again for subscribing to my YouTube channel and liking my videos. I really appreciate it. I hope you had an amazing weekend, and I hope you have a wonderful week and make a lot of money. And I look forward to seeing you on the interwebs. Okay, bye.